Several prominent leaders in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, including unionists and business leaders, have spoken out against soaring crime levels in the region. They say investors have opted to take their money elsewhere due to crime. Now, despite several visits by previous and current police ministers, crime remains high in the region. The city is ranked the most violent in the country according to the SAPS data. Government has embarked on several anti-crime measures since 1994. However, the metro remains a crime-ridden area. Mass shootings and kidnappings have become the norm. Extortion in particular has become a growing issue and is often tied to the other forms of crime flagged by communities and businesses are targeted. Residents and community leaders have attributed the high levels of crime to unemployment and the increase of drugs on the streets. Several stakeholders believe the police need to be equipped with resources to restore order in areas under siege and task teams to be deployed. Well, to talk to us about Freedom Day and the high levels of crime in Gqeberha, we're now joined by Mkhuseli Jack. He's a former member of the UDF and is a political activist. A very good afternoon to you, or a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, viewer.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure joining us on this Freedom Day. Now, South Africa has made significant strides, since the end of apartheid, and so much has been said about freedom, or even the lack thereof, with sentiment abound that we are not truly free until we are economically free. So how would you assess the progress in democratic governance, and to what extent is rampant crime undermining those gains?
Definitely, we are experiencing a mixed bag situation.
Yeah.
Where there are numerous good things, actually quite a lot, but unfortunately, crime, when it rears its ugly head, it takes the center stage. Therefore, it spoils everything. And not only does it spoil for a minute, but it can destroy forever.
Right.
And that is why we believe that the focus on crime ought to be top of the agenda at all levels of government, and making sure that criminals think twice before they commit a crime.
Right.
Unfortunately, due to a number of weaknesses that have been felt, the police or the security services have led to a point where the criminals feel confident. The cost of crime to them is very low. They are not risk averse, simply because the probability of being jailed for a long time for your crime is getting limited by the day. And that is caused by, among other things, the fact that those who commit serious crimes are convinced that no one will stand in court and give evidence against them. And that is the point that I think our government needs just to step back and sit down and look at the issue of protecting those citizens who want to speak up against the criminals. Because if the criminals can go on with no risk to themselves and kill witnesses, then nobody is going to be safe in this country. West in Nelson Mandela, we have seen it as the ravages of the gang wars in the northern areas have shown. The killing of witnesses is a preferred tactic of the criminals now, and by doing that, they instill fear in all the citizens of the metro or across the country and everywhere.
Now, Mr. Jack, you seem to be pouring cold water on government's efforts to fight crime. What then do you think the measures or policies, should the government prioritize to address the root cause of crime and its pervasive effects on communities and the economy?
Look, the crime is like endemic. It should be in the language of every politician, wherever he speaks, wherever he is. And that will give the kind of confidence to the police force that they got the state on their side or the big people behind them.
Yes.
When the police were chasing these criminals, are suspicious that the politician may take the side of the criminals, then the police are weakened by that. Mm-hmm. Now, what can you do? Among other things, you know what? When you have this kind of a crime, you can't keep the same police force in the same places. You rotate the police, okay?
Yes, yes.
especially those who are dealing with that particular serious crime, as you mentioned them, kidnapping, hijacking, extortions, etc., etc. So the police were dealing with that. The criminals, once they have their confidence, criminals are not prepared to pay a price at any stage. They are not a principal group of people. They are just opportunistic, and they can operate and they can grow very quickly if the opportunity avails itself. So with the presence of the same police force dealing with them there, once they are strong, they are capable of influencing those policemen. So that is why the tactic of shifting the police from one police station to the other, far away from the scene, it will make a big difference. That's one of the things that I think has been missing in the whole thing of dealing with the criminals here.
And it's quite interesting that you say that, Mr. Jack. It's quite interesting. You make a very, I would say, thought-provoking sentiment with regards to that. And do you believe that the current leadership is fully committed in tackling crime, or are there systemic issues that need to be addressed to make real progress?
Systemic issues are definitely there. I mean, the police, if you go to some of the police stations, they struggle to have the tools of their trade. And then also like the other various issues, like to deal even with the promotion and so on. You could hear when you go and do something simple there. I mean, in the last year, I have visited the police stations because of crime, that people stealing things and breaking things. I've never done that in apartheid days, went to police station for a crime. But last year, I may have been there more than 6 times. And every time you interact with the police, you can feel that how demoralized they are. Yeah. So meaning that the reward is not up to the task to the challenge they are facing. And as a result of that, everybody starts to say, what can I do? It's Sebunjena, let me leave it as it is. Whereas I think that if they can, the police, it doesn't help to say you're going to bring loads and loads of police. Get those that are there to be motivated. Absolutely.
Let's now turn our focus into, another worrying trend, that of investors reportedly moving their money away from Nelson Mandela Bay due to crime concerns. Now, in your view, Mr. Jack, what are the long-term economic and social consequences for this, for the city and the country? And just how important is the issue of safety and security in attracting both local and foreign investment? Perhaps in the same breath, you can take us through the economic domino effects that follows when investors choose to stay away from the high crime areas.
Well, you must remember now, some of the companies that are here got investors who are overseas, okay? Yes. And these investors will come. They would have been here maybe 6 years ago, and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. And when they come now in an environment that is crime-ridden like it is now, this is what, of course, the business people used to tell us. Then what the person who's investing in South Africa, once he sees that and look at the situation and find that it's hopeless, he definitely going to say, I'm not coming back here. Right. So our job to try and do our level best to make sure that we deal with this problem of crime. Because, listen, criminals are loyal to no one. Nobody can have sympathies with people who kill people, who hijack people, who kidnap people. Criminals are a nuisance. And during the liberation struggle, this was clearly clarified to us that the moment you ponder with criminals, you are pondering with trouble, and they will destroy everything you want to do. So investors are telling us that they cannot operate under conditions where the safety of themselves, of their workforce, and their assets in the country are threatened. Because very soon, the criminals with the extortion, they can say to you, okay, now General Motors or whatever company, you need to give us 10% now from what you have. And they will rate things have started with a small one of that extortion. Now it has grown to be a national problem that everybody sees that, hey, these criminals now are no more operating with shame, but they operate brazenly because they are not scared of anything. Now investors will not endanger themselves. But up to now, I must say, the Metro has been working very hard with the companies that are here and with the business people in order to assure them from their side that we are doing our level best to fight this thing. That is why I know what they talk about, what the investors are saying, because as a result of that, at least the chamber does assist to show to worried investors to say, wait, at least these politicians in this area and all people are anti these criminals. It's just that at the moment the criminals are having an upper hand, but there is hope that we are going to overcome them. And we are working very hard towards that. I used to belong to the business
Mr. Mkhuseli Jack,
many years ago.
We are pressed for time, unfortunately, but we do appreciate your sentiment. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as we wrap up this discussion with Mkhuseli Jack, a political activist and a former member of the UDF, it is clear that the issue of rampant crime in South Africa, in particular in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, is a pressing concern that certainly cannot be ignored. I mean, while South Africa celebrates its hard-won freedom today, it is quite evident that the very essence of democracy is being undermined by the soaring crime rates.